Well, nothing like going live 2 times in the same day within a half hour or so of each other because I didn't figure out my audio. So, if you are listening or tuning in earlier, I do greatly apologize, and I will send out recordings to everyone as well, just so that you can capture all of this. If this truly interests you and you're wanting to know what building a personal portfolio looks like. So, for those of you who don't know who I am or didn't catch me earlier, my name is Jessica Rice. I'm a legacy leadership and branding strategist for executives, for founders, for entrepreneurs, and really anyone who's looking to scale and elevate their leadership brand and their legacy. And so that's really what we're here to talk about today. That's what I'm here to share with you, is how you not only start to create a personal brand for yourself, but how you start to scale your legacy. And you do this by creating a personal portfolio. And the more that we can start to think about branding in the sense of creating a personal portfolio, a strategic roadmap for ourselves, a way that we can diversify our skill sets, our knowledge, our expertise, the greater impact that we can start to not only make on our brand and our leadership, but truly in this world. And that's what's near and dear to my heart. That's what I'm passionate about. That's why I went and moved from being a software engineer and a leader in the tech space into executive coaching and working with Fortune 500 leaders and entrepreneurs to scale their brands. Because I do believe that the more that we can start to not only leverage our expertise in a greater way, the impact that we get to make is truly exciting. And not only that, we get to seize back control of our careers, our trajectories, and ultimately that future that we are looking to build for ourselves. And so I see a lot of information out there related to personal branding, and a lot of it centers around how we can show up in social media, whether it's on LinkedIn or whether it's on Facebook, whatever that looks like for you. For me, I spend most of my time on LinkedIn. That may be where you're joining from today. I know we're also streaming on YouTube and Facebook. But I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, and there's this idea of personal branding and getting really into the details on the types of carousels and the way that we create a hook and all of these different things. And I want to take some of that pressure off today in the terms of how we show up just on LinkedIn, because to me, personal branding is just that. It's very personal. It's deeply personal. And the work that I do with my clients around crafting a brand for themselves, LinkedIn and social media, that plays just a small part. It just plays a small role, and it's not even the most important part. So first of all, I want to say to you that there's 3 pillars of creating a personal portfolio for yourself. Number 1 is how you diversify, how you go and create various connections and grow your network, how you're opening up opportunities, and how you create visibility for yourself. And you have these 3 pillars, then you can start to look strategically at what it is that you're building for yourself. Because ultimately, we want to create ripple effects of change within our industries, within our market. And if any time is better than now, I don't know what is. We're seeing huge shifts in the market, right? It's never been more difficult to find that type of role that you're looking for. The market has been relatively unstable. And we don't have the excuse anymore where we can lean on our companies to really help propel us forward. I think for a long time, there was this idea of job security, loyalty, trust, where if we stuck with our same company for long enough, then ultimately they would see the value in us and they would start to promote us. And I have worked and I have seen so many people who are highly qualified, who've been on the job market now for the last 6 months. And to me, it's heartbreaking and it's devastating. But beyond that is what if we could take back some of that control and we were building something already? And that's what I want to speak to you about today as well, is what could you start to seize control back for yourself so that you're proactively building upon your brand, building upon your legacy, and strategically positioning yourself in your market and in your industry as a credible expert, as someone who could be setting up an advisory or a consultancy if you're not already. So really start to consider this for yourself. And so I liken personal branding to really how we see ourselves and how aligned we are. There's this phrase that gets tossed out a lot, right, is authenticity, right? And to me, when we're talking about having an authentic personal brand, it's really how we have congruency. How do we have congruency? How do we have alignment and consistency with how we're showing up? Your resume doesn't cut it anymore. Your LinkedIn profile is potentially one piece of that tells a story. But if you start to look around and you pay attention to brands who are getting their names out there, people who are really showing up in a multitude of ways, they have consistency. They know what they stand for. They know who they are. They know what they bring, and they know how to position that. And you don't find them changing all that much. They're not one person from one day to the next or different people. So think about this for yourself, because when I'm talking about branding, the first place that we start with the understanding what your leadership value proposition is, what are your core values, what matters to you, what are the boundaries that you're willing to put into place to uphold your values so that you can deliver forward on your mission, your vision. What's that greater purpose that you have in your life? And I think it's really key that we go back to some of these roots, because sometimes when we're talking about wanting to go for that next role, maybe we want to move to the C-suite, maybe we just want that job transition so that we can, have extra income, make a bigger salary. Those things are important, but usually finance is not what excites us. That's not what gets us up in the morning. That's not what keeps us awake at night, unless it's like bills. I get that. But mostly what triggers to our brain to go forward and to do something courageously is having a purpose, having a why behind what it is that we're trying to do, what it is that we're trying to cultivate. And most of us walked into our careers with some semblance of that in mind. There was something about the work that we do that excites us. And when I'm working with leaders and they're excited about the work that they're doing and they're driven by the mission of the company, it's usually because of the impact that they know that their efforts are making that, lead to some sort of greater change, whether it's with their clients, their customers, helping people, whatever that looks like. And so really, if we can step back for a minute sometimes and reposition our thinking around what is it that we're here to do? What do I want to be known for? What do I want to make an impact in? What are those ripple effects that I would like to be a part of, that I would like to see made in my life and for my legacy? When we're talking about building a legacy, it's not because it's this grandiose idea that we want to be important. It's quite the opposite. It's not about being self-important. It's about making an impact in service to others. And so the legacy that you are building already, you're already building your legacy. How do you want that to shape? How do you want that to play out? Where do you want to see yourself in 5 years, 10 years from now? Most of my clients aren't talking about retirement, even if they're nearing that retirement age. They're talking about the impact that they can make in that next stage. So really consider, what's that next stage look like for you? What do you want that to look like? And how can you start building toward that now for yourself? Because if we're not building for it now, we're just waiting and we don't know what will happen, and we're leaving it all to chance. So really building your brand, I always like to say, is building an insurance policy for your future. So really consider, what is it that you want to create for yourself? So let's talk about what those 3 pillars look like. So the first pillar is how we diversify, how we start to diversify our opportunities. And this is kind of the foundation of building a personal brand for yourself, building a leadership brand for yourself, an executive brand, whatever you want to call that. Whether you are an entrepreneur, you are the leader of your company, you're the face of your company. If you are a leader for a corporation, more and more corporations are looking to executives, looking to leaders, looking to the C-suite to become the face of the company, because it's not enough to have a cold logo or a cold product that connects people back to the corporation, to the company, to that corporate brand. And so we're building personal brands so that we can be the representatives of the work that we are passionately doing. So when you're diversifying your opportunities, consider for yourself, you're the face of your brand, but you're also the face of your company. You're the face of whatever it is that you're wanting to represent. And so really considering, what is that leadership value proposition that you uniquely bring? I like to talk about Gay Hendricks, that book, The Big Leap, because he talks about the zone of genius. And the reason I like talking about the zone of genius is because most of the time we are focusing on our skill sets, our certifications, we're focusing on our job titles, the roles that we've held, and we think that's what qualifies us. That's what gives us credibility. In essence, your zone of genius is that little thing that you do, that you uniquely do, that maybe people come to you for and you don't even think twice about it. It just comes naturally. It's innate. And so people might be asking you questions. Maybe they're looking for advice. Maybe you have some knowledge. You can distill down complex information into easy to understand, metaphors or whatever that looks like. So consider, what is your zone of genius? What's that LVP? How does that tie back in? So when you're starting to try to position yourself in your brand and talking about what you bring to the table, this is where communication is really key. You know what you're saying and you know how to convey it and articulate what it is that you do. And I think a lot of leaders really struggle in this department because we're not looking at ourselves like that, and we feel we have some insecurities, we have some self-doubt, we have some imposterism. All of these things start to bubble up to the surface, which is why personal branding is deeper work. You have to know also your natural strengths. I've taken leaders through hundreds of leaders through a personal assessment that goes into their natural strengths and into their free traits. I was like mixing those words up. So natural strengths, those are the things you're going to wave your magic wand and they come naturally to you. You thrive in doing this type of work, and maybe it's around communication, maybe it's around organization, maybe it's empathy, maybe it's how you think outside of the box, or you're a visionary thinker. Maybe you bring humor mixed into stressful situations. It's nuanced, but there's pieces of you that when all combined together give you this archetype and this natural strength that make you flourish in certain settings. Our weaknesses are areas that maybe we wouldn't naturally pick. What I want to talk about in terms of weaknesses is something called free traits. It means that you can operate inside of an area that's not a natural strength, and you might have to do this for your role. You might have to do this for various aspects of your role. Maybe you're an entrepreneur and there's pieces in there that you're just having to do. But we have to have awareness around this because it gets a little sticky. Say, if we are operating in our free traits, maybe our role requires us for the majority of the time to be doing certain activities that we don't really enjoy, that we wouldn't naturally pick, but maybe we're even receiving accolades for the work that we're doing in that space. Maybe we're getting promoted for some of that work. Well, then we start to lose sight of who we are. We start to lose sight of our authentic selves, our authentic branding, our natural strengths, and we start leaning into areas of ourselves that we wouldn't naturally be inclined to go because we are getting promoted, we're getting recognition for this. I think this is really important when we're considering what types of roles that we would be most aligned for? What types of opportunities do we want to open ourselves up to? What types of partnerships do we want to create for ourselves? Because if we're not aware, if we're not keen on some of those areas, we are inadvertently putting ourselves into burnout, into stress, and also wondering why we're not really happy, why we're not feeling really satisfied in our lives or the work that we're doing. And so we have to have this awareness, because either we can ask for help, we can seek out help from people who might thrive in certain settings, in certain areas of free traits that we're having to operate in. Or we also know that if that's the majority of a role or the majority of a responsibility or what someone else is looking to from us, then it might not be a right fit. And I want you to consider that too if you're going into, say, an executive board role or nonprofit board role or whatever, an advisory type of role. If they're looking to you to handle certain problems or solve certain problems that aren't necessarily what you think it is, you can find yourself winding up doing things that you didn't think you were signing up for, which is really important when we're building a personal brand and we're also trying to build credibility, build trust, build rapport. Because if we're doing those things, we inadvertently can be breaking down key relationships because we were unaware of ourselves. So if we can understand these pieces, then we can move into pillar number 2. Pillar number 2 is where we're doubling down on relationships. Now, I want you to consider for yourselves key relationships that you hold. What are those top tier relationships? Who are those people that you trust, that know you, that like you, that maybe have worked with you? How are you continuing to say nurture some of those relationships? Those people are not necessarily the people who are going to open doors of possibility in terms of partnerships or opportunities. I would consider these people more like connectors in your life, connectors to grow your network. And so if you are reaching out to these individuals, consider then who else can they introduce you to? Who else in their network might be that tier 2, tier 3 connector that opens up a door to a partnership, a possibility, some sort of role that you might be going after. And how do you want to continue to nurture and grow your network? Most of the key pieces within building a personal portfolio are in the networking piece. It's in your network. Your network is your net worth. It's the relationships. That's what usually opens up doors to new roles, to new possibilities, to executive board roles, to VC opportunities, to advisory opportunities. Building your brand is incredibly important because it's the relationships that you keep that keep the momentum going for you. If we stagnate on building or nurturing those relationships, it's harder for us to build our brand. It's harder for us to build trust. It's harder for us to have that backing. The next piece is how we elevate. How we elevate not just our communication skills, but how we talk about ourselves, how we talk about our brand, how we talk about the things that excite us, our passions and our purpose with conviction. So if you're talking about how are you putting yourself out there and creating visibility opportunities for yourself, how are you communicating what it is that you are passionate about? How are you communicating this out into the world? How are you communicating your thought leadership, your brand value, your leadership value proposition, your positioning in the market? Because if you're wanting to grow, you're wanting to create this impact, these ripple effects, then you have to start putting yourself out there. But putting yourself out there also means knowing what you bring, how you communicate this. This is working in concert with those partnership opportunities, the network, the things that you're doing activity-wise underneath the surface, because it's also adding credibility when they're looking at this and they can see that you walk the talk, that you are what you say you are. and you believe passionately about the work that you're doing. A couple of ways that you can also start to create networking opportunities and visibility opportunities for yourself is not only with how you're reaching out to your network, but how you're leveraging various platforms. And so inside of our community, we have the Powerhouse Legacy Collective. We're talking about how we can, something wasn't working, so I apologize. How we can grow how do we create this growth engine for ourselves? So I want you to consider what your platform is, what your presence is, what your positioning is, and then those partnerships. So I have a client right now, he's doing a really phenomenal job at all of this, and he's really considering for himself how he's growing his portfolio. He's been reaching out to members of his top tier network, which has been opening up additional connections and resources, which has opened up conversations around advisory roles, around executive board roles, around VC opportunities, things that he wasn't initially considering. He's also been considering which programs to join. So if you're thinking about how you're growing your network, what memberships, what communities can you be a part of that help to further your network, that help to add credibility to yourself? So it's not just you feeling like you're standing alone on an island. You are building a foundation for your brand. And so think about it in that way. So where's the platform? Where are the people that you're trying to reach? Where are they hanging out? How can you get more front and center with them? How do you start to create those visibility opportunities? And how is your presence? Are you matching? Are the words and the way that you speak and the way that you show up, does it match your convictions? Sometimes we have to do some deep inner work around some of this because we don't fully believe it ourselves. And it's not because we don't have the skills or the expertise. It's because we do this one thing. And I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. It's really important when we think about personal branding, one of the biggest things that comes up is we won't do it because we put ourselves in the center of our brand. Now, if we put ourselves in the center of our brand, it means that we are the most important aspect of our brand. Now, how many of us really struggle with showing up for ourselves, prioritizing ourselves, feeling like we're really super important? I know there's narcissists out there, but not all of us are. So really, most of us don't show up and build a personal brand or personal portfolio because fear, imposterism, all of these things start to get in the way. And that's because we have this misunderstanding of what a personal brand is here to do. Going back to connecting with your purpose, your mission, your vision, what your values are. If you're connected with these things, then those are what are the center of your brand. And ultimately, it's the people. It's the impact, it's the people, it's those ripple effects. Who are you here in service to? Is your brand impacting the direction of an industry? Is your brand making the lives of other people easier? Is your brand helping corporations to run more efficiently? What are you here to do? What are the problems that you're here to solve? That's the cornerstone of your brand. And if it becomes big enough and it becomes valuable enough and you believe in it enough, you're no longer deprioritizing the activities that are required to build a successful and influential brand. You're also not living in that fear zone, that imposterism. It's not that we ever have enough confidence to go out. It's that we have enough courage. And when we have courage, it's usually because we believe in what it is that we're doing. How many of us as leaders are willing to put ourselves out there, willing to go speak, willing to go talk about a topic, even though it's uncomfortable for us, because we were asked to? But we won't do it for ourselves. If you're connecting to your purpose, your why, your mission, that's what you're here to do, and it's bigger than you. And you have to make it important enough to follow through, to see it through, to be dedicated. Self-accountability is usually pretty low unless there's enough of a reason behind it. And I think it's really important to make this distinction, because this is what holds most leaders back. This is what keeps us and prevents us from scaling to that next level, because we haven't placed enough value on the work that we're doing. We haven't placed enough value, or it's not self-importance, it's the work. What are we here to do? What do you want to be a part of? What do you want to look back and feel proud of in the time frame that you have, this trajectory that you have been on? This is the crux of building a personal brand, building a personal portfolio. And why? Why does it matter? Why is it important? And in this industry and in this market, seizing back the reins of your career, seizing back the reins of your life. And what do you want that to look like? This is you shaping what your life looks like. It's not leaving it to chance. It's not leaving it to anyone else. It's for you. So what do you want that to be? And get deeply passionate about it. So if this is something that's interesting and you've been curious about how you can start to go about this, I know it's a lot and it can feel overwhelming, and there's some ambiguity involved with how do you start making some of these connections? How do you start putting yourself out there? How do you know what your strengths are, your leadership value proposition? Then there's help, and that's what I created, and I wanted to present that to you as well. We created something called the Powerhouse Legacy Collective. It's an online private incubator, really. It's a private incubator for leaders, founders, entrepreneurs who are really wanting to build something important and make a difference. And they're here to up-level in their leadership. They're here to up-level in their brand. They're here to build something incredible. And so we wanted to put this together. I'll go ahead and I'll share a little bit with you. I was playing around with this earlier and hopefully it works. So here's inside of the community. And so we have a community thread where you can connect with other leaders who are inside. We have a leadership library where there's books and there's discussions and a reading list that you can also come to. Sometimes we just don't know which books we want to read. And every month we have a new different book that we are reading together. We have weekly events, weekly series on momentum sessions and trainings, all around a monthly theme that helps to propel your brand forward. We have an Academy Hub, which includes courses and assessments and workbooks and playbooks that we have put together to help you with building your leadership, building your brand, networking. How do you start to put yourself out there? How do you position yourself for visibility opportunities? All of these pieces are a part of this. There's also private chat available to you as well. And so if you've been wondering how you can start to build this for yourself, that's what we wanted to create. And this way you can also start to build upon your network with the people who are a part of the community. What together can you do that individually maybe you couldn't? When I'm working with teams, that's a big piece of it. When we're building teams, the biggest question is, what is it that each member of the team uniquely brings that adds value that alone the team or individuals wouldn't be able to accomplish or to complete? That's the mission of the team. And so if you have a bigger vision and you have a bigger mission in your life that you're wanting to accomplish, but you're worried about trying to do it all on your own, then there's a community available to you that's here to help you. Obviously, there's coaching involved, and if you sign up, then I offer you a one-on-one strategic visionary planning audit where we're talking about where's the direction of your brand headed, how are you positioned, where are you wanting to go, and what are the tools and resources that we can provide that can help you get there. You're creating a network for yourself that internally maybe that together you can start to create something, or they can introduce you to someone else that you didn't already know. So right now we have invitations open to become a founding member. Founding members receive access to the community as well as the legacy vault. And what that includes are past and any future trainings that will be a part of the community. In the future, there will be rolling periods of themes that they'll have access to, but for right now, founding members will have access to the entire vault of trainings and playbooks, anything that we've already created and anything that we're going to be creating in the future. So it's a high value, this is a highly engaged and elite community, I would put it this way, for people who are serious about wanting to rise up in their leadership, create a brand that matters, that has meaning and purpose, and aren't really sure how to go about that. And if that means becoming a consultant, becoming an advisor, becoming an executive board member, maybe a fractional role that you're looking for, maybe you want to become a founder, maybe you have ideas in different ways, maybe you're a coach. That's what this space can bring for you. So I want to invite you to come. You can join us at joinplc.com. And right now, it's $67 a month. If you pay annually, there's 2 months off where it's $670, which is quite a deal. It's definitely much more approachable than most of my private containers and coaching, where I'm working with brands one-on-one and really how we're building that out. But this is the best platform that you could have for yourself to start launching what that next stage is going to look like for you. What's that next level going to look like for you? What do you want to create for yourself? So I invite you to come join us. It's $67 a month. You can come join us at joinplc.com. And there's no obligation. You can come in, you can try it for 7 days. You can see how it fits for you if this is something exciting. Remember, building a personal brand, it does require some dedication. It requires some prioritization. But that's what we're here to help you with. And if you need the tools and you need the resources and you need the accountability and you want to just know what's that next step that you can take in building a portfolio for yourself so that you can feel confident in your outreach, confident in the connections that you're making, confident in what you're putting out there, then we're here to help. So thanks so much for joining me today. If you have any questions, if you're curious about what does a brand portfolio really look like, how can you start, what's the first step in starting this process in creating a personal brand for yourself? What are some considerations to make? Please reach out. If you're just curious about the community, you'd like to hear a little bit more, want some more information, you can also find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on YouTube. You can also just reach out to me on my website at jessicaricecoaching.com. All right. Thanks so much for joining me for the second time today. I hope it was valuable for you. I'd love to hear from you. What stands out to you? What are the questions that you have? And how do you feel building a personal brand, a personal portfolio fits in to your trajectory, your legacy, and what it is that you're creating